Good morning, everyone. So hope everyone had a great night. I got my new artwork last night, so we've got our 3/4 view of this character, Carl, and then we'll have the front view of our other character, James, to work on. I'm just going to turn off my microphone so I don't accidentally record it later. Yeah, so let's dive straight into the artwork. I think I'll work on the front view first. I did a little bit of stuff off camera, so I just got these first forearms on the correct layer. So I'm just going to line them up. Let me know how the sound is. I hope you can still hear me. I'm trying a new sound setup, so hopefully it goes good. So first step, I'm just going to line up my forearms. They don't have to be perfect because we'll likely go in and line them up along the bicep again later, but line them up as good as you can. My cold hasn't blossomed yet, but I still feel like I got a little bit of congestion here. Okay, so his arms again I think are going to open outward on both sides. We don't have many inward facing hands, like we've got the odd default hand that's facing correctly, and then so those are going to have to be rotated. So let's do that, and we'll rotate them up to where we think we're going to want to go. And I think we're going to need a transition hand again. So I'm going to say 2, and I'm going to pull that, a copy of that. Oh, today it's decided to call everything copy again. I'm not sure why. Sometimes it puts copy when you drag a layer, and other times it doesn't. I'm going to call that 05. Because I know that's the transition hand, and that one I'm going to rotate back. To there. Yeah, and then does that one have a default? So we're going to want to pull a default copy into there. Let's go into isolation mode so we can line up that hand properly. Alright, and then because he's got the same default arms, I should be able to take this forearm set, the whole thing, and drag a copy into his left. I'll go in and rename those later. Nobody needs to watch that. And I'll select and I'll move all those over to here. And if I line up my default arms correctly, we should be ready to pull in and start rigging. It's always a little tricky to see here. Let's see if wireframe helps us. Not much, but a little bit. You can always kind of see the donut. Okay. And now original default. And I'll just rename these properly. Hopefully it didn't rename all the subfolders copy as well. Gosh, that's annoying. If anyone knows why it decides to put copy in occasionally, it's not a consistent issue. I'd love to turn it off if there's a way. It just makes things confusing in Illustrator when there's like copy 5 in 4. So yeah, it's worth if it does put in copy to me, just to take out. Sorry, it's super boring watching people just rename stuff here. I gotta get less self-conscious and just work. Okay, so I think now, they always look so hilarious in Illustrator, but I think we're ready to import James Blue F into Character Animator and start rigging. So let's file, import James Blue F, and we'll go into rig mode to James Blue F. So on parent layer, I'm going to rename face to torso. I'm going to rename my dragger right hand. I'm going to add, oops, I'm going to add, come on now, add a dragger, and I'm going to call it left hand. Auto blink, and I'm gonna add lim IK. And I know I always my target is those 11 behaviors, so I know I haven't forgotten anything. Okay, and before I forget, we're gonna go into torso, and we're gonna set head position strength to 0 and head scale strength to 0, and that just stops his head from floating off his neck. And I'm gonna move his origin low where I want it to pivot. Okay, so front, I want tagged as front and also as a head, and that one I'm going to move low where I want it to pivot, and then head I want independent, I want it tagged as a head, and I want it marked as face, and I'm going to zoom in, whoops, zoom in a bit. Set my rotate point. Okay. And then I'm always so scared to rig the desk now. Let's rig the desk right away because we know how to do it. We did it perfectly last time. So on the parent layer, the origin point is low. On the named level, I'm going to put my fixed stick and I'm going to take this origin point and put it above the fixed line. Let's move that down a little bit lower and put it above the fixed line. And then I'm going to go to the desk layer. I'm going to make it independent, and this connecting point has to be lower than the fixed line that we made on the other layer, which it is. Okay, so in theory, that is how you rig the desk. Okay, so now we're ready to start putting in, I guess we might as well put in our sticks and stuff first. So body, I also want low, and he's going to pivot from there. Okay, on head, the face behavior, that one I'm also going to set head position strength to 0 and head scale strength to 0, again to stop everything from floating around. We know that we want them always connected. Your mileage may vary on those settings though. Okay, so let's do our left arm. Okay, and again here, if you were watching last night, we'll have that same issue. If we put our dragger on this side, he'll be able to move here, but he won't be able to move very easily on this side. If we put it over on here, like I'm planning to, that's where it's going to be draggable. So it's always a little hard. I wish you could have more than one dragger, but then I tried it. It just was really impossible to animate. So we can change that later on if we want to. Like if in the animation phase in the first scene, if we decide no, all his gestures need to be in here, I would just go through and switch my draggable to this side, and then I'd probably have to adjust my sticks. We usually have to adjust our sticks anyway, so that's not too hard. Let's do our legs. I'm going to make these quite low. I'm not 1000% sure. Like the non-moving desk has to do with like where the pivot points and the origins are. So I'm just going to try and keep these under the fixed point as well. It's a bit low for, like I'd normally put them a little higher if we were incorporating the legs into the animation, but we're not. It's just, I believe, for an establishing shot. Actually, I don't even know if we see his legs in this scene. Potentially we could have made the puppet without legs, but he's going to be more versatile with legs. Okay, and same drill on left leg. I'm going to keep those pretty low. So as far as I can tell, the main rigging is done. So now we'll work on our swap sets. So first swap set I always make is brows. Oh, apparently he only has one set of brows. Let's go take a peek. That's unexpected. So in Illustrator, let's go to head and let's go to brows. Oh, and they're all empty. So do I have him from a front view? I don't think I do. So I may need to contact the artist. It looks like potentially just when the brows were pasted on this layer, maybe they were vanished. Let's just see. So default is done correctly, but you can see our layers are there, but the artwork is missing. In that case, when I get the artwork, we'll never see the leg in the desk scenes. Dang, forgot to do the brows. My bad. I'll fix them. Oh, okay, awesome. I'm glad I'm noticing the chat a little quicker. How does the sound levels sound this morning? So when I go into, as long as you can hear me, when I go into Character Animator now, because I've got my headphones on, I'm hoping that when I pull in a sound file, let's actually just try it since I know I've got an audience. And now we shouldn't hear echo, and it should be a lot better.
Why? So
So I'm hoping you might even be able to hear me
Oh,
talk.
they'll start working.
I'm just thinking the animation phase will be a lot better. I know there's a delay between chat and when it appears. All right, so let's carry on with what we're doing. So in that case, like, we've got our swap set made for the browse. When I get the artwork, we can just plop it in. So we're working on James Blue Front. So currently browse don't have anything in the swap set, they just have the default, but that's easy to add later. I'm gonna go in and tag my right eyeball because those seem to never auto tag. Come in loud and clear, excellent. Can't hear the computer at all, which is good. Oh, it's not actually that great, because if you couldn't hear it after I put in the sound file, when I'm animating it, I'm kind of under debate how much people want to hear the sound file when you're animating. Like, we're not doing lip syncing. So yeah, I might have to jimmy around with that. You can't, like, watch yourself when you're doing the testing. Okay, so right eyeball is tagged. Let's go in and double check left eyeball and tag. Okay, well, the computer's totally silent, so even when I go into record, if I've got the audio playing here, so I can hear it in my headphones, can you hear it in stream?
Asked her if she agreed with me.
Well, why'd you do that?
To make sure that we were both in agreement on the facts.
That's what I'm very much hoping. Can't hear it in stream. Okay, so I'll have to do some fixing on that, but we're just rigging today, so I'll do that off stream. Thanks, Sandy, for your input. That's excellent. Okay, so let's go back to rigging. Brows technically are done for now. Left and right eyeball are tagged. His eyeballs are nice and small, so we didn't have to put on masks, but say our eyelids are really big, and when we do parallax, they're sliding off the side of his head, it'd be easy to drop in a mask there. So when we test the puppet, let's keep a good eye and see if we need to put in a mask. Okay, and then on face base, we're going to put in our stick. And make it fixed. We're going to put in our second stick and call it jaw. And that, again, we're likely going to have to turn lip sync way down. Okay, so those are done. Let's work on our swap sets for the arms. So left forearms we're going to pull in. We'll double click on default to make it the default. And these ones I'm going to pick 3 as my random. No, you know what? I can pick donut because his rest pose is a donut. So let's do it how we always do it. So P, and I'm going to latch. Okay, so left forearms are done. Let's do left hands. So I'm going to pull it in, rename it to left hands. Okay, and this is the set. I gotta watch. Default is the only one that has default hand in it, so we're going to drop default hand into the swap set. Okay, so 1 is done, 2, 3, 4, 5, default, and 5. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to add. So yeah, if you've watched this before, what we're doing is just dropping the same, each forearm has the same what did I do there? Sorry, I'm new to streaming and talking. That's what I did. Open self. Let's just start fresh. So we're doing open self. Talking on stream and doing this is quite a bit harder than I thought it would be when I first thought, oh, that would be nice to stream my work. Open palm, no, open up, open up, open up. It's also, I'm only on my first coffee of the day, so I could always blame that. So open up. Okay, so everything is empty. We've got hands, and then I wanted to pull default in because that's not in all the sets. Okay, so 1 is done. We want 2, 3, 4, 5, default, and 05. Twirl them all open. And I'm just going to stop talking for this part because obviously I can't do them both. I can hear my phone ringing, but I'm not going to go answer it. So if that's you phoning, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, open flat, and then we've got default is in a swap set, default is in a swap set. Yeah, and if you're ever not sure what's in the swap set, you can click on it over here, and if you slide down, you can see those. That's what's in the swap set. That's what's in the swap set. Open flat, open flat, open flat. So you can check that you did it right. Okay, so in theory, wow, this person is persistent. Sorry for the ringing phone in the background. Okay, so we'll do right forearms. Double click on default. We're going to make donut A and latch it. And then we're going to work on our right hands. Did make a puppet once that had 27 hands. I thought it was a good idea. Oh, you'll have all these hands to choose from. I ended up using kind of the same 5 or 6, which I've developed into this swap set, but creating the swap sets for that puppet were I think it's tricky with 6. So that's side open and then open flat. Okay, so I think that's our swap sets made. Let's twirl those closed. Okay, and then we're going to want to make his tie movable. So let's just see what's up with tie here. So torso, we're gonna name that tie. We're gonna name this shirt. And then we know tie needs to be behind the desk. No, we don't want a second copy. Okay, and we don't have the issue we had the other day because the biceps and everything aren't covering. So it can be on its own layer. Let's go back into rig and find tie. And we'll make it independent. And we'll put a dangle on it. Okay, and this now, I tried the dangle right at the bottom and it didn't seem to get as much movement. We'll see how this one, I remember it had the better movement when it's about halfway up, but we can adjust that if we don't like how it wiggles. Okay, I'm scared to pull it in again, just in case the desk moves. But if I did everything correctly, when we pull him in, his head and shoulders will move, he will pivot at his waist, the desk will not move, the hands will all be in the right spot. Okay, so let's click scene and pull him in. Dang it. Okay, so the problem there the other day was that the desk pivot, let's make this fit. Oh, you guys, that's so embarrassing. If you watched yesterday, I did it perfect the first time, which origin point is not correct. So that is below fixed point. On James Blue F, that origin frontal is below the fixed point. Oh, I'm not going to fart around with it on stream today. In theory, that should be working. What am I missing? Let's go through the notes very carefully. Okay, so parent layer. Origin point is there, and it's definitely below the fixed line. Named layer. The fixed line. Oh, I didn't make that fixed. Tell me that could be the problem. Yay. Okay, maybe I will fart around with it online. So it's really important to, when you put in the stick, it's not necessarily fixed. You have to tell it to be fixed. Okay, so I did rig that right. That is the way to do it. You just want to make sure that you don't forget to tag it as fixed. Oh, that makes my day. I'm going to have a big sip of hot coffee here. Okay, so we're ready to check out if we had the same good luck on his forearm. So I'm going to turn everything off. Hold control and click any of the buttons and it'll turn them all off. And I'll turn triggers back on. Tag as fixed for the win. Yes, it's super important. It's sort of like, you know, learning to cook from grandma. You just had to watch carefully. If she said, we'll just put this in the fridge to get it out of the way. Actually, putting it in the fridge is an important step. Okay, sidetrack Sally here. So to get everything on, we're going to activate one of each trigger. Oh, did I set up all my defaults? That's important. So right hand, I don't have one. Yeah, open gesture is always Z on the right hand, so we'll latch. Okay, so Z, A, L, P, and 1. Oh yeah, so 1's not gonna register on the timeline, I think, because there's nothing actually in, it's an empty swap set currently. Nope, use the hotkeys. So I'm gonna stretch out my timeline. The hotkeys are great, you just have to remember. And Control 2, and it has to be not off the keypad, I've found. I'm not quite certain why that is. And then I'm just going to delete the selected items here. Right forearms, left forearms. Oh. Let's see, left hands. Open gesture is always L for left hand. Okay, so we can add that one by just hitting L and putting it on the timeline. And now we've got the left hand take. Woo! desks freak me out. I don't know why. I know the method, I know it works, and I'm always just so so stressed out. Okay, so left forearms, we're going to start off, we know, on 05, and then Control-Shift-D to break up that. And then it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we'll close it off. Okay, I see there's a, is that a, oh, I thought that was a 0.05. I have a dirty screen apparently. Alright, so we're gonna have to flip, oh wait, no, default hand we always know it's gonna be backwards. Let's go to open gesture. Okay, so those work as expected. So again, on these ones, I think what we're gonna wanna do is stretch that out. And when I'm doing my forearm pass, oh, that's what's wrong. So open self, we want default there. And let's go into right hands. And let's make sure we got, yeah, that's on default. And right forearms, that's on default. Okay, so he'll, oh. Okay, so we have to add default to 1. Handset on both sides. Yeah. Okay, so on 1, let's go back into Illustrator. And we're working on his left. And we want a copy of his default hand in his one. There, so then when he transitions, he'll be on his main arm with the default hand, the donut arm with the default hand, and then I'll put an extra frame. He'll go to open gesture without switching forearms, and then he'll open up. I think that'll look good. It'll be a little, it'll look funny when we're animating because these default hands are going to be off. Oh yeah, and then we have to add it into the swap set. Oh, it doesn't like it when you're switching while it's trying to update, so let's do that again. Got to give it time to populate its changes before you switch from scene to rig. That's kind of when I consistently get that arrow. So that was his left arm. Here's the advantage of twirling everything shut before you leave this screen. In 1, in hands, and we can see default, it isn't part of the swap set, and we want to go to his left hand and drag that in and drop it in default. Okay, so now when we go to record, let's zoom in a little bit so we can see exactly what his hands are doing. So when I do the forearm pass, I'm going to have this extra, it's going 0-5, and then the one arm twice, but it's going to have, that's where it's going to switch. So we'll just get a little extra bit of, it'll make it a nice smooth transition, I think. The other thing, I think, again, we're going to have the issue 4 on 5. Let's turn off triggers so we can, when you have triggers armed, it's expecting you to be working down in here, so you don't actually see your work. If you're confused, why can't I see the triggers I just did? Just make sure to turn them off, and then there you go, you can see all your work. Took me like quite a while to figure out why it sometimes was easy to see and sometimes not easy to see. Yeah, and then we're going to want to go in and transition some of these. So the other thing we could do is make a front version of this swap set, and then we wouldn't have to stay on default hand. I don't think there's necessarily a great advantage for doing that because we can only have our dragger on one side, right? So even if we had, say we had open gesture from the proper view, so he had his hand open and we could see the front of his hand like this, like that's what you'd be seeing. I can't move it around at all anyway because the dragger's on this side. So let's arm his hands so we can see our draggers. Our dragger's on this side, so I can't actually, so when he's on these frames, let's put him back to default, you can see moving that forearm on that is almost impossible. So there's not a big advantage to having all those extra hands on there. But yeah, I think he works as expected. I'll just go in and line up those forearms. I've kind of decided that might be a little bit boring to watch, so depending on how fast we do everything else, I'll do my lining up off screen. So he works as expected. Let's just try a few hands. So open self, that's one where you could pull it onto the first forearm. And when he goes, yeah, this one we could use. I just gonna go in, I'd go in and flip it. Let's go in and do that right away. Okay, so open self in forearm 1. Okay, so we're gonna close off everything but open self. And this one I'm gonna rotate to the correct, because we can use this one, because I don't have to move the forearm. So now when this one shows, I can pull the bicep in and it'll look like he's gesturing at himself. Okay, so that's a good change. And we'd only be using it on that one, and let's make sure we change it in default as well. So we'll shy everything except open self. And that one I'm going to angle again up a little bit because he likely would be gesturing. We'll get a little bit of movement with it because we can move the bicep there. So let's go in and see if we put those at nice angles for that. So if he was gesturing towards himself, we'd stop here and I could move, like he'd be saying like, I really think you don't know what you're talking about. And then we'd switch him to open gesture. What you're talking about. Yeah, that'll work good. Awesome. Okay, so this is my practice scene, and this is where I build the forearms. So I'm going to leave these forearms. I'm really happy with the way they look once they're lined up here, obviously. I'm pretty happy with the way they move. Oh yeah, we know that 5 is likely going to be too long, so I'm just going to take 5 out of the mix, and we'll end them on the 4 forearm. Let's see how that looks. Okay, so we can, let's line everything up. I said I was going to do this off screen, but it's just hard to work on the puppet if the AI files aren't lined up perfectly. But our pins are in pretty good spot. We've got good full extension. Yeah, 4 is still pretty long because when he's extended, he's like right off the screen. Let's actually end it on 3. Yeah, that looks pretty natural because it would be 4 shortened a bit. And once I line up these with his bicep, that'll move exactly how we want and as expected. So I'm gonna keep these frames in my test scene. So like later when I go to animate, instead of having to set everything all up and rebuild these because I know I'm going to use them again, I can just copy and paste this whole scene into an empty scene and we'll be all set and ready to animate. So let's see how we did on our right forearms. So again, we know we're going to start on 05. Let's pull everything a little longer here. And we'll split up, Control Shift D, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's weird, sometimes it lets you put in these weird half visemes. I try to take those out because when you're lining up the forearms, it just doesn't work great. So then we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have a sneaking suspicion 5 is going to be too long again, but we'll see how we go. So those also, yeah, those move as expected. And again, sadly, we don't have much control. So these first two will do the same drill. So we'll extend the donut hand and put in that extra default frame in there. So it'll go default hand, gesture hand, gesture hand, gesture hand, gesture hand. So let's put it in instead of just talking about it. Okay, so we're gonna have to put in default hand. It's in 05, but it's not in 01. So right forearms 01. Let's go into right forearms 1, and we're gonna copy. Oh, it's in there. Hang on 1 second. Why is it not showing? So 1. So that is right arm, 1, hands. See how I don't see default here? So in AI, oh, because I'm in left arms, you silly person. I don't know why it leaps back up to there. I want to be here. Open self, so we'll go to default. We'll grab a copy of default hands and drop it in and save. We'll see it appear in here. So there's default. You can see it's not in there, so this is really important. It's right hands we're working on, and we want to drag it and drop it into our swap set defaults. And now, oh, and don't forget to line it up. So we'll go into 1 in isolation mode, shy everything but default, select only default. Let's zoom in a bit so we line that up nicely. And then don't forget to unshy. So he'll move like that, but again I'm thinking 5 is going to be way too big, so I'm just going to take 5 out. I think 4 is not bad, but again we're probably going to want it on 3 only. So we did a bit of extra work that we didn't need to, like now we're not going to be using 5 or 4. However, it's not wasted time. Like this artwork later we could potentially reuse. If we take out the desk and make his arms flat, we'd suddenly have James front view, no desk, right? So the art creation, even though we're not using it for this particular puppet, is still not a waste of time to have. We've got those forearm sets now for James front view without a desk if we want them. So yeah, so I think he moves pretty smoothly. Let's see how we got with our, so yeah, we got full extension, everything's looking really good. Did we get all his hands, yeah, at the right thing? So when we animate, what I usually do is just go onto the hand scene or hands layer, and I'd select he wants side open here, then he wants it to move to open gesture. So sadly, some of them are going to be backwards on this side, but we know we can't easily move those anyway. So that's where we know it's always going to be on the default hand anyway. So when I drop in the forearms, that's when they'll display correctly. But we wanted to be able to see them on default, even though we're not going to be using them in the animation part, just for like background stuff to make it easy. Awesome. Well, this puppet went nice and smooth. So now let's try lip sync from his front view, and we've got James's own voice. So I'm just going to pull in James 05. I'm just going to make sure that I've got my transcripts in. Yes, I do. So we can activate James. Make sure lip sync. Let's turn everything off. And arm lip sync. James. We'll go to timeline and compute lip sync from audio. So you guys unfortunately won't be able to hear it. I'm still trying to figure out a way where you'll be able to hear the sound files and it won't be blastingly loud or have an echo.
Carl, when you give someone...
Right, so lip sync, I can disarm it now because we're done doing that. But in jaw movement, we're going to want to put that down to 2.
Give someone feedback. What are you really trying to do?
I'm trying to let them know what I think about them, I guess.
Why?
Okay, so I wrote down all my... So in manual jaw movement, we had adjusted these. We had him from a different view, but they're about the same. So AA was at 2, L was at 3, M is -2, O is at 3, R was at 7, S is at -2. This is a really nice feature of Character Animator that's kind of hidden. I used it for a long time before I realized you could manually adjust these, but it'd be a pain to try and move this little thing at the right speed. A workaround would be to put a little portion of this beard in with the mouth set, and then you get movement that way, and you wouldn't have to do the flappy jaw. I believe if you're familiar with OK Samurai videos, the wizard is done that way, where so not when the artwork, the beard is part of the mouth set. Ours just this little portion is part of the mouth set. So let's see if that looks any better.
So they'll start working better?
That's exactly right. The whole point of feedback is to improve someone's performance.
I'm very happy with that. So let's make sure we've got everything set how we want. So I noticed that his head's not tilting how we want. So let's go into face, head. That's still set at 75, but it's not tilting how we want. So let's go back into rig. And let's turn that. He's gonna, I'll do this fiddling off screen, but adjusting all these levels, let's go into torso and turn torso significantly down. There we go. And I still have to move my head fairly significantly. So his scene is gonna be, actually I've got, let's pull that in. So James front, let's go to fit, and we'll make that super opaque. And let's adjust where he's always going to be. So we'll go out of torso, go into transform and scale. Try 200. Let's try 250. looks not bad. He doesn't line up completely. See if I line up his shoulders. His head is pretty low. Let's make him a little bigger. You go even slightly bigger scale. There, that's pretty good. And I'm going to push that so that every time we pull in his puppet from the front view now, he's going to be in the right spot at the right size. Let's go to my assets file. Background, is it James Office 01? No. Is it James Office 02? No. Of course. Wait, maybe it was 02. And just moved over. Let's pull that to the bottom here. Okay, so that one. Looks like the background has changed slightly. I don't think I have. Do I have the right one? No. Sorry, everybody. Background office, let's delete that. Are 1 and 2 the same, or is it just me? That's 1. And that's 2. One and 2. Okay, so we had a little mix up maybe in our artwork there. Not sure if Sandy, if you're still listening, but so yeah, we won't work with the background for now. I'll just take it out. Let's go back to record. So yeah, he will look like this. So he is pretty much good to go. So this would be my let's just take this out because we know his lip sync was good. And this is going to be my sample scene from now on. So I'm happy with how his forearms are. Oh, off screen. Okay, I had in my head that he was going to be a little more centered. That's something I might discuss with artists. So artist is Sandy, my brother. Like maybe if we slid him over just slightly, we'd have a little more. I'm reluctant to go all the way down to forearm 2. We would just lose. So this would be forearm 2. It's not bad, but yeah, maybe forearm 2 is better. So that's a judgment call. This is where I'd get on Zoom with the artist. So if I ever got to work with you, I'd get on Zoom with you and we discuss this together. How do we want this scene? If we want further forearms, are we better to move him over a little bit? Are we happy with just the shorter transition and leave him on forearm 2? So yeah, that would be a discussion I'd have in private, not on stream, but because basically we're trying to see like how do you rig and all that stuff. So I'm pretty happy with how he's moving though. We could go back in and line up those forearms. So let's go back in. We'll go to right forearms in isolation mode. Enter isolation mode. There's probably a hotkey for that too. And I'm gonna shy everything, and then default. Oops. Default we know is in the right spot because that one never moved. Wireframe might be nice. Okay, and then unshine save to populate, and then while we're in here we might as well do left arm. What was shine there? Okay, so we'll do left arm. Oh yeah, because this was the copy paste side, so default did move in this one. Yeah, so now they not only move great, they look great. So so say we decide not to move him, I would still, because I can see what's going on behind here, even if his hand was going to be off screen, say like this, I would still put the correct hand in. That would give us the option later if we wanted to go in and change. Oh, I'm seeing an issue here. So layering is really important, because notice it, nobody's eyebrows are going to be in front of their glasses. So let's go back into head. This is a copy paste head, so I may have to go back in. Maybe it might be something that I just didn't notice in the other puppet. So let's save there, and that should fix that problem. Yeah, there. And then what was the other thing I noticed? His eyebrows don't seem to be moving as expected, so let's just go in and make sure brows default. So see, the Character Animator is great, but it's a picky mistress. So the left eyebrow is spelled correctly, right eyebrow is right bro. So let's go back in and name that correctly in Animator. So normally that auto tags no problem, but it has to be spelled correctly. B-R-O-W. Save. And now that should have auto tagged. Right eyebrow, left eyebrow. And now when we go back in here, they should both be moving how we want. Yay. And if I didn't have my glasses on, they would work a little better. So I tend to put eyebrows. I'm just not a good enough face actor to like, you what? So the if you do a live take on the brows, it's great because you don't lose parallax on them like you do in a swap set. And if you're a great actor, maybe you'd be able to control them, but I just couldn't control them enough, so I never do a live eyebrow take if I can help it. I try and keep my eyebrows as still as possible, and in fact sometimes because they've interfered you can go in, is it eye gaze, no, face behavior, eyebrow strength. So, eyebrow strength is turned up really high. I wonder why. So I was noticing like that it's really exaggerated, so you can turn this down quite a bit. So if they're interfering or they're just looking too wiggly, that's a good spot to look. I'm not quite certain why those are set up so incredibly high, but that seems to be the default. You know, that's just too much. We're not doing a cartoony cartoon. There, yeah. So he's moving pretty good. I'm really happy. He came together nicely. The one little hiccup on the desk, don't forget to put the fixed tag in. So let's go over that one more time because the desk is tricky. So on the parent layer, you want your origin below the fixed line. On the named layer, you want the fixed line, so this fixed stick, and it has to be tagged as fixed. You can't just put a stick in. It has to be tagged as fixed. And that origin point you want above the fixed line. Then you want to go on the desk layer. You want to make sure that it's independent, and where it's attached needs to also be under the fixed line, which now you can't see, so you just have to remember where they were. And that is how you make it work. Oh, that took a long time for me to learn, and I still have to refer to notes every time. So yeah, James is ready to go. I'm not sure what time I started streaming. It's noon, so I think it's maybe been about an hour. I'm gonna take a half-hour bio break and fix myself another coffee, and then we'll come back in. The second piece of new artwork that I got is Carl in 3/4 position. If you've got any feedback about like what's actually more interesting to watch, I can do all my lining up and AI stuff off stream and just do the character animator rigging part on stream. Although if you're trying to learn character animator, like unfortunately this all lining up and naming and everything, it's really an essential part of knowing character animator. So yeah, let me know what you're more interested in seeing if you got any feedback. Okay, so I'll maybe see you in an hour or so. Have a great afternoon stream if you don't tune in again. Thanks.